Ambassador Danon, the UN report, as we just discussed, says that it has reasonable grounds to believe that the Israeli Defense Force committed war crimes during the violent riots on the Gaza border. They, of course, refer to them as demonstrations. What is your response to this?
This is not the first time that this notorious council is accusing Israel and lying again. Instead of dealing with the real human rights violations in Syria, in Yemen, in Iran, Venezuela, they focus on Israel and they spread lies. This is lies. They haven't proven it. And you know what? Today, Hamas actually congratulated the Human Rights Council. You know why? Because Hamas was not mentioned in this report. They spoke about the Israelis, about our boys and girls defending our borders. They never mentioned Hamas, who sent kids as human shields to defense, who sent thousands of people to defense, who try to penetrate our sovereignty. So we are used to that, and I want to thank the US for withdrawing from the Human Rights Council, and I'm calling other countries to follow the US and not to take part in this theater. It is a joke.
Ambassador, why did the Israeli government not participate in this investigation? Would it have given it perhaps legitimacy, or would it have perhaps given Israel an opportunity to give its side of the story? Why not participate?
We have no problem with criticism. I deal with that every day at the UN, and we do give answers when we have to, and if we do mistakes, we correct the mistakes. But when we see this council, we know they are not here to seek the truth or the facts. They are here to spread slander and hatred against Israel. And we saw that with that report, calling us war criminals. We do everything we can to save lives when we protect our borders. So we know that it's not about revealing the truth, it's about spreading lies against Israel. That's why we are not collaborating with this organization.
Well, why is there such a disproportionate focus on Israel at the United Nations? Why do you think this persists?
Some countries use the Human Rights Council to promote their agenda. Unfortunately, the Palestinians promoting agenda against Israel in the UN instead of having a dialogue with us. In a few weeks, President Trump will present his peace plan to the region, and I can guess that the Palestinians will not even look at the plan. They will reject it immediately. They prefer to go to the Human Rights Council to try to pass resolutions against Israel. Those are empty resolutions, empty reports.
But Ambassador, why do you think there is this constant disproportionate focus on Israel as opposed to other countries? It's not just the Human Rights Council. It's other agencies at the United Nations. Why is there this obsession, perhaps, with Israel?
Michelle,
Why?
it is an obsession. It is a new wave of anti-Semitism. Today, it is more politically correct to say, I'm against Israel or against the policy of the Israeli government. This is not real criticism. They're using double standards when they come to Israel. So we are not accepting it. We are fighting it. And we are not alone. We have more countries, moral majority that joins Israel.
Well, there was a response from a senior leader of the terrorist group Hamas. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
We welcome the report that condemns the Zionist occupation and which proved that they committed war crimes and crimes against humanity by targeting children, paramedics, and civilians. What we want now is to translate this report into practical steps to bring the leaders of the occupation to the International Criminal Court to sue them for the war crimes they committed.
Well, what is your response to that?
You know, it speaks for itself. They even never mention the role of Hamas in the conflict. Even if you want to criticize Israel, you should do it in a different way. I think hearing the Hamas leaders praising this report, it speaks for itself. It shows that this report is not about finding the truth, it's about bashing Israel. And you know what? I think hearing to the Hamas leaders, it's actually helping Israel. Because people understand that it is not a real report. There was no investigation here.
But does Israel perhaps intend to investigate some of these claims, to perhaps just take a look to see if there's any validity to any of these claims?
We did in the past. And whenever I get a request at the UN, I send it to Jerusalem, and we reply to the request. But what they did in the council, it was to put a story against Israel without proving it. That we do not accept.
You mentioned the Trump administration's peace plan. There have been some developments. Jared Kushner has been on a tour of the region trying to get support from countries like Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. What are your expectations there?
So we know that right after the elections in Israel, in beginning of April, the plan will be presented. We welcome it. We are open-minded. But we have no expectation from the Palestinians. They say it out loud. We don't accept the Israelis as partners. We don't accept the Americans as mediators. And we will continue to wait until the day will come and a Palestinian leader like Anwar Sadat of Egypt will come, will tell enough with the war, enough with the hatred. When the day will come, we will be there to negotiate.
So you're waiting for a change in Palestinian leadership, essentially?
Absolutely. I don't think we can promote anything when they are continuing to incite against Israel.
Ambassador Danon, we appreciate your perspective. Thank you for joining us here on I-24 News.